Hi everybody, I'm Amit Bansal from 91 Square Feet. Thank you Akshay for having me here. Akshay, I come from a place called Devsar in Haryana. It's a small village. Spent almost first 12 years of my life, early upbringing there. Then moved to city. That's a Bhiwani district in Haryana again. Spent almost 5 years there in Bhiwani. Then moved to NIT Kurukshetra. Did graduation in civil engineering. Passed out in 2012. Then for a year, I worked with a company called WSP India. It's a global structural engineering consultancy which has a back office in India. So I worked on a couple of high-rise projects there, doing some part of the overall structural analysis like the slab load analysis, the core wall analysis. These kind of things I've done. Uh, Post that, I was always interested in entrepreneurship, and uh, in that stint at WSP as well, I started a small company, basically a structural consultancy firm. Basically, pooling in capacities with my seniors there, we took up some assignment of designing a warehouse near NCR region. It was in Faridabad, and the the entire experience, while it was fulfilling experience because it was the first time we were venturing into our own space, but the learning was consultancy around civil structures does not have a big market in India because the guy was paying us almost 70,000 bucks for designing his warehouse, and he expected us to make four visits to the place while it is getting constructed, along with the much of the work that we will do in our office to kind of create those designs. And when we actually calculated the entire expense, our cost of traveling and lodging was superseding the total money he was paying us. So we realized it was a hard realization that it's very difficult to build a engineering consultancy sort of a business. And I was a guy, like, I was very
Well,
serious.
well,
Yeah.
with the power of hindsight, does it fit into some sort of a model like, that the TAM is too small or you were going after the wrong segment in the market? You should have gone after some other segment, or the way to deliver was wrong.
Yeah, actually, more than the learning, it was a heartbreak actually. So, uh, so the situation there is like I was a guy who was very motivated, very ambitious, took the engineering very seriously. I knew a lot of things around designing structures and the load analysis on buildings, and I thought that I will create a large business out of engineering designs, right? But when I went into the market, I realized that all these guys, they do not want to pay engineers. They would just work with an architect, and architect will advise them that you can put this kind of support, this kind of reinforcement, and your building will building will stay erected. And all the approvals which are required to be taken, these approvals can be acquired in hackish ways, like people can pay some money and get some signatures and they can get through with those approvals. So basically, builders and developers were saving money that they would ideally be spending on engineers, right? And that's where I felt, the dream that I have seen of, building a large civil engineering consultancy, right? This is not happening. There's no market, and we were very little exposed as well. Like we could have explored deeper, but in that moment, I immediately thought, uh, I will not be able to make something I'll not be able to make a large outcome out of this place. I need to get out of this place. And I became very serious about writing CAT and changing my line of work. And then I appeared in CAT. Then I got an admission into NITI Mumbai, which is now IIM Mumbai, and studied operations and supply chain management there. And during that time as well, when we were studying, I was studying at NITI. uh, Basically, the journey was like, again, I tried a couple of things along with the course, because I got placed. I was the first guy, probably the first or one of the first few guys who got placed in the batch. I got a PPO from Aditya Birla Group. So I had the whole second year with me at my disposal, and I Mumbai is slightly lenient in those areas. So back in those days, so I used that time for trying multiple, you can say, entrepreneurial ventures. First thing was I got enrolled in an MLM scheme, multi-level marketing scheme, as I've not
Which company?
told this. There's a company called QNet,
Okay, not
right?
heard of it. Yeah.
So, and how I got enrolled is one of my college senior was working in that company. He came to me. He said that I'm doing this business. This is giving good profits, and I used to be, and I'm still am the guy who would have deep respect for the alumni. Somewhere it was kind of uh, embedded in our DNA back in the graduation ragging days. So the way he pitched, I totally, totally trusted him. Whatever savings or the loan that I've taken for my education, I have put all that money into that business. And in fact, in the first 7-10 days, I have gotten my girlfriend's money and one of my close friends' money also in that business. So I was like,
Oh wow.
invested 4 or 5 lakhs into a new
Oh
venture,
wow. Okay.
which I did not understand. And after 7-8 days, they started having sessions. So in those sessions, they would talk about hardcore sales, right? They would talk about things like very naked and honest things about sales, that you need to bring a prospect onto the table, you need to reel that guy in so and so ways, right? Right, it was a good learning. But eventually the part wherein you need to fool your friends is where I got completely dejected. So then I took a break. I came to home, attended to my mom's health for a couple of months. So but when I got back to campus, I decided that I'm not leaving this campus in net negative, come what may, right? I basically approached these CAT Coaching Institute, Career Launcher, IMS, and I had this knack of explaining things. So they enrolled me as a faculty, and I started teaching quantitative aptitude in those campuses. And I used to teach like in my good days, I would teach like 8 hours a day, 6 days straight, won't go to any class, and would make good money, right? And so I recovered all my losses. I had a fun time, bought a bike, taken membership of five-star hotels, and pampered myself. So
Wow.
the later half of this second year was a good, fun experience wherein I really had a good quality time there, and I was feeling good within myself as well, because I was not leaving the campus in net negative. After March 2015, what happened is I came back to my hometown. My joining at Aditya Birla was somewhere around June or July. So I had 3 months. So, and I did not know what I would do with these 3 months. So there was a friend of mine. His name is Ankit Gehlot. He called me. He said that he knew the founders of Bevkoof.com, and I should come to Mumbai and I should try a stint at Wavco. It's a startup. I learn a lot, and because he knew that I always want to do startup. So if I like that place, I can continue there, and if I don't like that place, I can go back to Aditya Birla or whatever place I want to go to. So that happened. I went to Mumbai with no absolute plans. I met Prab. He said कि भाई तू क्या कर सकता है. मैंने कहा जो जो बोलोगे ट्राई कर लूंगा. He put me in a plant operations, and वहाँ पे कुछ कुछ 1-2 महीने मैंने कुछ कुछ काम किया, राइट. बट वहाँ पे डॉट्स ऐसे कनेक्ट हुई अक्षय की, जब मैं वहाँ गया, सो आई एम बैक इन माई हॉस्टल विद नो बडी एल्स अराउंड, राइट. वे अकेले ही चले गए थे, बट वहाँ पे मैंने देखा मेरे जैसे 2-4 और लोग भी हैं. I think this is a great filter, because at that moment, people who were staying back in the hostel, right, they were all irrational in some ways. So I was in that company. I then I realized that two of my friends from campus, Amit Mishra and Vaibhav, they were working on a startup. The name of the startup was Quifers. Almost everybody in the campus knew that I am inclined on building a startup. So they asked me, "You want to join in?" I'm like, "There's no point of saying no. So let's do that." So every day I used to go to Bhivandi, to the Wavecove warehouse and factory. In the evening, we would drive back. We would start building. We would work on our startup, right? So those were good happy days in the beginning. We had a lot of
What's
fun.
this was the LinkedIn startup?
No, no. So it wasn't the LinkedIn. So the name of that startup was Quiffers,
Okay.
Quifers. So the idea was we would simply build an Uber for mini trucks, right? So it was almost like an X for Y days. We were in the zone, like, what's selling, what investors are buying. We should be doing that because anyway we don't have money or the experience. So let's not be over smart, and whatever that is catching the wind, let's roll with the wind.
Yeah,
So
Uber for X tha, wo, like a
yes,
1 year phase where everyone was doing an
yes.
Uber for X. Yeah.
So at one moment in that year, Akshay, there was only 47 companies which were doing Uber for mini trucks. Like that is just one segment of Uber for X. There are like
Wow.
many other
Yeah.
segments of Uber for X.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So all of them funded, all of them raised seed to Series A. Porter was one of the, I think, uh, one of the first mover, and they had the largest round of $5 million, right? So that was the state of affair. We were also building aquifers. Then we quit our jobs. All three of us, we quit our jobs. Whatever earning we had from the jobs, we put that earning in the business. It was just a small contribution, but it was okay to for us to kind of take the business, because we anyway which we were not motivated by drawing salaries. All the money which was required, it was required to pay to the developers and get the website and the basic things up and running. So, and then we raised a small round. We raised a 2 crore investment from Indian Angel Network and a couple of other guys, and we started building that business. In the first year, I believe that we were good teams when it comes to growing. We quickly grew our order book to almost like 300 trips a day. Uh,
When you raised
and
funds, what was were you revenue positive? Like, was it
uh,
pre-revenue or revenue had started when you raised funds?
So it was slightly gray at that moment, Akshay.
Okay.
So it how it was, it like we had a website. We used to run certain ads. Somebody would say that, okay, I want to send my household goods from place A to place B. If one of us co-founders would go to that guy, we would do the loading unloading operations. We'll work with the driver, right? Very very high touch, 1 or 2 trips in a day. Sometimes no trips, right? So things were very slow. You can say there were revenues, but revenues were very very hard earned. Like you would go stand in the naka and you can get that kind of a revenue were not in the form that, okay, this business has started churning out money, so and had started getting this flow. So that's where it was a little gray actually. So uh, that so that fundraise happened. After that
And
fundraise,
that
we
fundraise was like, were there a lot of no's before you got that? Any learnings around that fundraise?
Yeah, absolutely a lot of learning. So, in fact, it's a little hazy for me. It's like almost 8, 9 years ago. Definitely, we reached out to a lot of people. Definitely, your idea did not make any sense. Right? So, these two things we absolutely realized in hindsight. But the momentum of those days were like, you know, anybody who has some capital was interested in putting money in startups. So we went to some of these group meetings. I think, I don't know, it was like Mumbai Angel or some angel group network. We went to that conference room. Somebody organized that pitch for us. We were pitching. It was a 10-minute pitch. 5 minutes into our pitch, somebody called in for samosas, and then samosas came, and then people are eating samosas, and so, those kind of days, like, anybody is willing to part with 5-10 lakhs, and that was enough for us. So, and I think India and the fundraise environment is still the same. It's typically very easy if you like be disciplined about it and pitch consistently, slog it out. It's easy to pick 2-3 crores if you are very very serious about doing something. I still believe market is almost the same even now.
Okay.
So
Okay. Interesting.
then, first thing which went wrong was the round we signed up for. We signed up for taking money in tranches. I think that's the worst thing an investor can do to himself or herself. Right? Agreeing to give money to a seed stage company in tranches. Like if you are giving money in tranches to us, scaled up company, that makes sense because you are almost talking about an AOP and the execution, the how well the execution's been carried out on those plans. But in seed stage, basically most of the companies are pre PMF, right? They don't have a pre product market fit, and they needs to do a lot of pivot around, right? And when they need to pivot around, and if you're giving them money in tranches, right? So these things don't go very well with each other. So we started scaling our business. In the first 3 4 months we got this feeling that okay, this is not happening. Even at scale we don't see the unit economics happening. Like we it is driving a mini truck is different from driving a cab. You can't make 14 15 16 trips a day. Only 3 4 trips can be made. There's a lot of union issues. There are a lot of but union issues and all these things probably will be handled at scale, but there's a lot of unloading time, right? The buyer is MSME. He would not pay premium just for the heck of paying the premium, right? So even if you kind of win over this market, the amount of money that you need to put in will be massive, right? Because you are basically talking about jitna bhi, all the unions which are there, all the catchment supply which is there in the available to the in the proximity for this MSME. You will fight everybody out. You will, and you will put on this.
Basically, there's already a strong middleman here. It's hard to
Yeah,
displace that middleman.
yeah. So in this kind of business, actually, the gestation time and I think the money that is required to put in is very very high, and the TAM was not big enough for to kind of make sense to put that money. While it is so much clear in hindsight, but in that moment we had this feeling, right? But we were all chasing the bigger checks from VCs and investors. Like those
I
were the
guess
days when
your way of looking
yeah.
at TAM also must have been that India में logistics की market is X billion dollars. So it's a large TAM. Like that would have been the way to see it, na? Like, and
That's
this you were
generally
doing.
the way.
Uh,
That's only the way when you start a business, but as you kind of grow into a particular line of work, your basically focus gets sharper and the definition of TEM gets sharper. I think that's a trajectory for most businesses, right?
and what was your market? Was it intercity, intracity, heavy commercial, or light commercial?
So that was the problem actually. Our market was intra-city light commercial vehicles, right? Because that's where you have the maximum competition in, and the ticket size is very low, and it's a very fierce service play, right? While there's a lot of option B and C's are available for the end customer, right? Which are
And
very
I
convenient.
guess Porter is the only survivor in this intracity light commercial.
Yes, Porter has done a lot of things right. I think I would, give a lot of credit to that team. Uh, be it the positioning of their service, they get enrolled with Mahindra Logistics very early in the play, realizing that standalone they cannot survive. So basically, they pulled in capacity, get some anchor business from Mahindra, and then on the back of it, they kept surviving, and then they evolved as well over time, like the parcel
What
deliveries and
like
yeah.
Mahindra was a supplier of vehicles to them, or Mahindra was giving them business, intracity logistics
So
business?
So Mahindra Logistics, I guess so. I don't have an absolute clarity, but my guess is Mahindra Logistics basically a supplier of vehicles to Mahindra Group of company and some other customers, right? So if you want to transport, let's say the auto parts and basically the finished products from one place to another, Mahindra Logistics will supply those vehicles, right? Amongst some other things. And Porter was a very good addition because it was almost a new vertical. They were trying to go deeper into the back end supply chain, working on agility. So they thought that if we have our own captive supply of vehicles, it will make a lot of sense. So that means captive business for Porter, and with that captive business, you come to certain level of P&L. The overall burn seems containable as a percent of revenue, and then you get a chance to take a deeper shot in other categories. So I think that's the way it went, but it could be, but not absolutely sure there.
Okay, understood. Interesting. So you said their positioning was right. What was the difference in their positioning and your positioning?
Difference was they focus a little more on consumer side. Uh, they
Like if I want to
they
move my furniture and I need
yes,
instead of
yes,
MSMEs.
yes.
Okay.
They focus more on consumer side. The ticket size and the margins are better there, although the volumes are very spread out. And basically they had the kind of money. They had almost like 35 crores versus 2 crores that we had, so they had some kind of room as well to play in multiple categories, while we were absolutely focused on revenue. Like we would not waste time on marketing to the people wherein we are not absolutely sure what the ROI would be, because even this 2 crores were coming in 65 lakhs tranches, so that made matters even worse. So
Yeah, okay, okay, okay. Right.
so
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that you mentioned as one of the mistakes that happened in that fundraise of accepting tranches. Okay. That would
yes,
have constrained your ability to truly find PMF. Because to
yes.
find
So
PMF, you need to
yes,
spend
we need to
certain amount of.
navigate a lot. We need to navigate a lot. I think we had the sense that we can make a unit economics. We were not sure of the scale at that moment, but we were sure of that the fact that we can make a unit economics profitable venture if we kind of go into intercity logistics, because the trip ticket size of individual trip is more than the overall revenue you will earn on an LCV by giving 30 days of service. You will make 35,000 bucks by supplying an LCV to a customer for 30 days straight without any break. You can make higher revenue and higher margin on a single trip. So although there was a fist fight on the sales conversion, but the unit economics was viable. So, but we
And
didn't have that room actually
intercity
because
is
of,
what, like, say, a black buck and
yes,
these kind
Rivigo,
of
Black
companies.
Buck, yeah.
Rivigo, black buck. Okay.
Yes, yes. So there are also a lot of things. So a lot of there are nuances of the industry. Like you will not make a lot of money if you are going only route A to route B on the onward journey. The majority of the money is made when you kind of utilize the return journey. So a lot of technology play and a lot of theories were going around, and Rivigo was playing on the fast and the speed of delivery. Blackbook was focusing more on the price point and the availability of supply. Uh, I always felt that category had something interesting, and uh, but yeah, we were constrained by our own limitations. So so that happened. We kind of made sure that we do just enough to get the next tranche. So we spent first tranche, we got the next tranche, then we spent next tranche, we got the last tranche. Almost next year, almost June, July 2016, we had almost left with 10-15 lakhs. All the money spent out, and one really good friend and investor, Harish Bell, he we talked to him and he advised us, bro, if you are thinking about you will get money on your order book, this is not happening. Market has changed. So, so basically,
By that
Tiny Owl
time,
went,
the
yeah.
winter funding, Tiny Owl went under,
Tiny
and
Owl,
these
housing,
couldn't
all these
get
people were
next round
getting
of
burst,
funding.
and
Yeah.
yes, tides have changed. It's not the old world that you'll do massive PR and you will get money. So we kind of tasted that flavor, what people are tasting now. So you can say a little experience in that sense. Uh, so there one of the co-founder had problems in the family, so he pursued his own path. Two of us, we felt, me and Amit Mishra, we felt, we will dig deeper into the segment. We'll see what come. It was very evident that we need to make a pivot. This business is never going to make money, right? But what pivot we can do with limited amount of money was the question, right? We didn't have enough money, so that time we decided that we will pivot our software into becoming a logistics SaaS for enterprises, right? Because we almost have an application wherein we can accept orders, we can direct it on a certain route, we can track its movement, we can push things in and out, the documentation, the proof of deliveries in and out of the app. So it was not refined, but almost like 80% catering to multiple use cases around last mile deliveries, the middle mile transport, and all these kind of things. So we thought, the product can be turned around in those ways with little effort, wherein we can bring in SaaS revenue, and that was hot actually. That was hot, juicy market at that one time, because a lot of things, Loginex, Routifake, all these things were happening. Locus, Farai, right? These companies was doing well. The software adoptions was going right. Right. So all these things were going around. We decided that we'll make that pivot happen. But even to make that pivot happen, we didn't have enough money, because software will take some time to get built, and then even longer time to start giving such stable income, right? So to get the money, in that meantime, we decided that we will start selling the ad space inventory on our commercial trucks to the customer outside, right? Because we have aggregated a lot of truck, we'll just go to the customer that you can put your ads on the sides of these trucks. Unfortunately for us, we started from Mumbai, and Mumbai is one of the, I think, very few cities in India wherein all the container bodies of LCV has are closed container, and you have a very proper, clean, plain surface on the sides of the truck. This is not the case in Delhi NCR, not the case in many other cities, but Mumbai is very peculiar in that way. So that was a very, you can say, local tactical opportunity we found to make money in the short run. We started putting those ads. We fortunately we cracked the first deal from McDonald, wherein we gave them they were launching a basically retail outlet, and they wanted to divert traffic from a city station to their outlet, and we said that on this route we'll kind of keep it on the run. And it's almost like a residual budget these people have around activation of a retail store. So they use that to give us order for 2 3 vehicles. And with that brand name, we went to Castrol, Gulf Oil, and these companies saw deeper synergies. And there we made good amount of money. We posted net profits in year 2016, 17, 18, 3 years straight. We are a net profit
Wow.
making enterprise, wherein with a small team, we were making money from these BTL campaigns, and on the sides, we are using a portion of this money to build a software for logistics. But then it is
You were
almost like
still
yeah.
running your intracity B2B service of it,
No,
or
no.
you?
We decided to shut it like from on the day that we realized that we are not going to get extra funding on that.
Okay, okay,
So
okay. And
so
so these trucks who were displaying the ad, you would have some sort of a revenue share arrangement with them.
yeah, precisely that. So basically, there are three components. One is the permission, ad permissions. One is the then the cost of logistics, then the printing and all this kind of thing, and then the revenue. So total income minus the direct expenses जो बचता है उसको we used to share with the truck owner and the company.
And what kind of revenues were you doing in this ad business?
We were doing campaigns like we doing campaigns worth 1 crore, 50 lakhs, 1.5 crores with margins across like 40%, 45%.
Wow.
So
Like
decent
annual
money for us.
revenue, how much would have been the peak annual revenue in this?
So in these 3 years, the peak of annual revenue would have been somewhere around 4.5 crore, but it used to hover around 2.5 to 2.5, 3, 4, like something in that range. And
And
we also realize, yeah.
no, no, you finish your.
We also realized, we are not getting a lot of repeat business on these campaigns because company did not have any way to kind of measure the success. So we kind of drifted into many BTL activities. We did mall activations, we did road shows, we did product sampling in small villages. We painted the wall for cement companies. So anything you give us anything uh, for which you don't have a proper professional supplier built up, and we would do it for you. We almost built an loyalty program, kind of an application, an Android application for one of the lubricant sector customers. So many things, almost like digging a new hole every day to feed ourselves, and then
Okay. Interesting.
that kind of approach.
Adormo has a similar story, right? They also started with ads on taxis, and
Yes,
then they pivoted into ads on the society, like putting TV screens on societies and offices for
yes,
hyper
yes.
local. Did you also try that, the TV screen market?
So actually, so Akshay, that thing that you're doing, we I never came to entrepreneurship for doing those things. I would anyway would have been making more money in the corporates. This was our our primary bet was to make the software successful. We were working on a logistics or a route planning algorithm, and we wanted to make that algorithm successful. In fact, from the product side, I think we were able to make a decent product. We were just not able to market it right or distribute it right, and that is also because the focus was very diverse, the capital was limited, two founders running different things. On one hand, there's a fight to put food on the table, and uh, You can say that we could have done a lot of things better in that moment, uh, but in the hindsight, I kind of feel that it's better that it went like that, because it was like very deep, rich learning of where and how you could go wrong. So uh, yeah.
Okay.
So yes, we so to answer the question, we thought about these things, but we were never serious about pursuing that direction deeper. We were just thinking about where the next 10 lakhs are coming from, where the next 10 lakhs are coming. We were not at all interested about making some assets and making recurring spend out of this, because our primary bet on that side was the logistics software. If we were to scrap that logistics software and do everything, we had these discussions when things were not happening between our co-founder, that should we scrap the logistics software business, because any which way the competition has taken a lot of lead. We don't have the ground. Our cap table does not look good enough that somebody would fund us. Our numbers are not right. Things are very messy. So everything is like so much messed up state, right? So there's no point of pursuing it. Let's focus on if you're getting revenues from ads, so let's kind of shut everything off, and we put all the investment back into the ad business, and that way we can grow this one. So those kind of conversation happened in between, but nothing materialized. It went on for a couple of months, but by the end of 2018 or something like that, um, I got extremely fed up of doing a new thing every day. And we also realized that, on the logistics software side, the state of things are the kind of product we have built, we do not have a distinct advantage over competition. We had a distinct advantage, but it was very small and undefensible. And so there we decided that we will trim the spend on the software side and rather focus on building something scalable on the operations and the tech-led operational efficiency side, wherein we saw this opportunity, wherein we were doing a lot of BTL and signages, and we realized that this entire market of signages is very fragmented. So if an enterprise wants to get their signage for the retail shops, or a lot of trade promotion requires these signages to be put up. Philips and Coca-Cola, these kind of companies put up a lot of signages. So the entire, you can say, the procurement, the delivery, the reporting, tracking, maintenance, everything is very hazy and unstructured there. So we thought, this is not very large, but definitely a problem area. And we can largely solve this problem area by doing some integration, some technical integration with certain section of supplier. And the supply side is also very attractive, because in one area in Mumbai, there's a place called Ram Mandir Road. So you'll find almost hundreds of small signage shops crammed in one area. And that small place is catering to a couple of states. And this similar kind of market in Paharganj in Delhi. So it was a viable plan in our head. So we started working on that. We
Like you
decided that,
wanted
yeah.
to offer it as a managed service where tech was in the background. For a customer, you
Yes.
are just like any other vendor, but you're using tech to make it more efficient,
Yeah.
give more transparency, so on.
Yeah, we would tell customer that we'll take over your trade promotion spend, especially the on ground brand identity creation or retail transformation, which is required to be done at your touch point. So we'll just take over that entire thing. So
Okay.
uh,
And this
it's a low
included
ticket
only
size service
like
business. Yeah.
those large signages, or also like they like at the Kirana stores also they put up some promotional material and all. Were you also doing that, or only on signages?
So almost every business has a attractiveness of categories. So the large signage is a little more complex, high quality, high precision required. Customer is a little
High
more
ticket
serious, so
size.
higher margins, higher
Okay.
ticket size. Though in the smaller size, the customer is not like the things are going the way they are going, and India being India in many ways, relationship driven in many ways. So we were predominantly focused on large signages, but we were doing good amount of the smaller ones as well.
Okay,
Right.
understood. This you
This
did
was
as
the
a
idea. Yeah.
separate business, or within Quifers only? Like,
So we never kind of we. So this is also, I think, one of the learning, you can say. We never did too much on shaking around the legal structure of the companies. We always believe that whatever you want to do it under the same entity. If this goes successful, then you can then you can figure out how you want to create the org structure and the the shareholding, the patterns around it. So
Because
uh,
your shareholding was messed up, right? You had
yeah,
probably a
our
bunch of
shareholdings was
angels.
messed up,
Your
and
ex co-founder would have also had share, right? Who's no longer working now.
yes. So actually, so it's a chicken and egg now. So if we would go on fixing the shareholding, right, almost the entire equation breaks apart, and we end up being the bad guys for investors who have lost their money and now they are starting on something good, which will possibly make money, and now they don't want to make us party to it, right? And
Okay, right.
on the other side,
Morally,
if
it's the
you
wrong thing to do.
yeah. And on the other side, if you don't fix it up, right, you will not get the adequate opportunity to build it right because you'll not get the adequate funding, right?
Hmm.
But again, I would say irrationality helped. We believed, let's do what is morally right. So it's not penny pinch, because any which way there's no business on the plate. If there's no pie on the plate, then what we are fighting for? We are just fighting for each other's ego. So let's bring a pie on the plate and then we'll settle affairs amongst ourselves, right? So that's how we built everything in the same entity. We created a small software. We digitized these some of the backend operations around these factories building these signages. We catered to a couple of these brands, Bridgestone and some of the other FedEx and DHL, these kind of customers, and started doing the signage work, right? So what we realized, and towards the, I think the March or February or March of 2020, we are doing close to 30, 40, I think we touched 50 lakhs a month, and we were close to making 20% gross margins. We are operating in 10 lakhs gross margin, and our cost were also around that range, 10, 12 lakhs at that moment. So things were kind of looking up. There was some inherent battle wherein we realized that when the customer account is growing to be to when we have penetrated deeply, or when we felt like, okay, now we have passed the initial test of relationship with the customer, we have delivered them good value, and now we'll start to make money. That's when a B2B buyer hits you back saying, doing things like, they started, you can say, circumventing us or disintermediating us that night, because they realized after a point that they are doing the signage, and for doing my signage they have like this 4, 5, 6 guys in the back end. What if I directly talk to these guys? And customer wanted to talk directly to these guys because technology was essentially not creating any value in the play, right? If technology that we are talking about has been creating any value, right, these guys would not have wanted to disintermediate us. But the small reporting in the dashboard with not a lot of you can say direct tangible advantages, these procurement guys are always driven by KPIs when they want to cut cost after a certain point, when they have उसको छीलना बोलते हैं, आपने जो पूरा छील दिया है आपको, then they will circumvent you and go to the next layer. So that's how typically B2B purchase works, right?
Amazing.
So then then COVID hit. uh, we Our revenue on the on the rolling banner side, like wherein we are doing these signages, that revenue went to zero. On the Quifer side, there was some lifeline support. We were getting 10 lakhs, 12 lakhs recurring revenue, which kind of kept on coming. Those customers have been very kind to us in those days. And on the back of it, we kind
That
of
was
survived.
the add-on truck business. You're saying
No,
10,
no,
12
no.
lakhs.
Add-on truck and all that we kind of curtailed.
The SaaS
We said
business.
that yeah, we had a software, so it was some of the customer paying the recurring money, so
Okay.
that money was coming in, and
And that
remaining the
SaaS
entire
software
focus was
was like for a, let's say, a Hindustan Unilever, which has a lot of logistics operations to move its products around. Someone like that would be the customer.
yes, a lot of FMCG player like Dabur, Marico, Vijay Sales, like retail and FMCG players were using that software. They
Okay.
found.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, so when the COVID struck, we were in a zone wherein uh, we had basically a team which was doing branding, but the world is going back to Adam's days. So we were not sure, at least from the outside perspective, we were not sure what will come out of this side. There was almost like 15, 18 people on that side of the team. And there are a couple of software developers and small team, 2, 3 folks, 5 folks, I think, software developers majorly, and 1 or 2 sales folks who were on the sales side of the on the software, the sales and development side on the Quifers. So these two things were running. uh, we had this theory. So the choice was very straight. Like this business, which was supposedly picking up, all of a sudden has now shut it to zero revenues, right? And the business which wherein we have invested a lot, but was definitely we were sure that it will not take off from this moment in, was our lifeline. Right now, where do we focus back again? So this was the question, and to make things even more complicated, we had almost like couple of crores, 3 crores kind of a loans for which we have signed up personal guarantees, because in the process of building this new venture, we had to take loans, and because our business was posting net profits, we were able to get loans from banks, but they got us to sign personal guarantees on those loans.
And
So
you needed loan for working capital because your vendors would have wanted payment upfront and the clients would have paid you after 60 days or something.
loan for both working capital, even for these were corporate loans, not precisely working capital. We would loan even to pay salaries as well. In that moment, Akshay, we decided, again a little bit of irrationality that I would state, because there's no logical argument possible on why we did what we did, right? In the back of our head, right? I was feeling, I had this confidence that this COVID wave will go away, right? And when this dust will settle, there will be an opportunity to take a lead on this side of the things wherein we are doing signages. But the problem was customers are disintermediating. The behavior of the customer will not change. They will still disintermediate it. So how will we create a large outcome out of this business? So we decided that what if we start doing the whole retail shop, not just the signage, the furniture, the tiling, the painting, the plumbing, everything that goes inside the retail shop. If we do the whole deal, then the procurement guys are basically transferring their headache away, right? This is the area that they themselves don't want to venture in. So there's no incentive for them to circumvent us or disintermediate us, right? And they will get a more captive business, right? And the business will be, and the tech that we will create around project management will have certain value, because if you are able to pull this off across multiple locations, then there has to be something that is binding all these operations together. That kind of tech did not exist, right? So that was the theory we acted upon. We kind of uh, directed the whole team. In those days when we were sitting idle, we profiled all the furniture guys, civil work guys, right? Took onboarded them, created those internal documentation that how we'll run projects, created sales decks. So around December or January 2021, when the COVID was subsiding, immediately we were emailing the customers all these, you can say, decks and all these kind of things, wherein you tell them that we'll build the whole retail stores. And we started getting orders from some of these brands. Seat Tires, I think, was one of the first few customers which trusted us, and we built some of stores there for them, then for Yokohama, and then from there we built for some of the brands. So there we saw that, now there's an opportunity to build something meaningful, something scalable, because although scale was not happening, there were a lot of operational issues in doing what we were doing. But one thing was very clear, that we every day we are making progress in a manner wherein we are becoming more efficient at delivering stores, right? And at some point we will become far more efficient, and it's a big entry barrier in itself, because these kind of businesses cannot be built on a single day. There's a very complex equation between the talent and the technology there that has to come together, right? So and we also decided to sell Quifers. We exited Quifers. There was a buyer which kind of taken the majority stake, and it was a all cash deal. We paid up all our loans, and we had some breathing space for ourselves. And in this middle, to survive, because you can imagine, Quifers got acquired somewhere around June 2021. That's
That
when the
that was
deal
basically
was.
like an intellectual property acquisition. They
Yes,
wanted the
yes.
software. Okay.
Software and the customer's account, which were along with that,
Okay. Okay.
right?
And who was the
So
buyer?
there's a company called Citix Logistics, a Kerala-based logistics MNC,
Okay. So
right?
they wanted it for
So
in-house use, or they wanted to start a SaaS business?
so they wanted to do both, actually. So they were also not very clear. They just wanted to bring in technology in foray. They saw a good team, develop products with some developers working. So it was a good addition to the overall portfolio they had.
Okay. And how
Right.
much did you sell it for?
We sold it for $1 million.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
like a good enough exit for the investors.
Yes, good enough exit for investors there. They got also, I think, almost like 80% of the money that they primarily invested in. But then we overcompensated by giving them almost 1.4x of the worth of stake in 91 square feet, which we bought back as well. So net outcome investor got also almost 2.2, 2.4x out of us. So
Okay.
that's the part of the
Okay.
settlement.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, and interesting thing was because Quifos was not moving forward. It was just stagnant, and we sold it to a logistics MNC. 91 square feet. We were just pivoting around, figuring out. There was no revenue. We were just building things out. We did not lay off anybody. We just kind of dug into the future. We thought to ourselves, okay, we were under a couple of crores of loans, so another 50, 80 lakhs won't hurt us. We'll see to it. So let's retain the team and keep digging what comes out. But to survive in those days, you have to execute payroll. We started another company, Yoda app, wherein we built an infographics, a casual learning kind of a platform. So we were running three companies in one moment between
Wow.
June 2020 to July 2021, right?
Uh,
And it was a big mess. Like we did not have a clue, how the next day is gonna start, what conversation we're gonna have with whom, what ideas we are working on. It was a big mess, right? There were other co-founders involved on the Yoda side, and eventually towards the mid of 2021, June 2021, we decided that no, it's too much of a mess. We are riding multiple boats, and in the beginning, these things were acting in our favor, right? Because our risks were getting hedged. We were running multiple horses. Some one horse will win, and all these kind of things. But what we realized is there was sheer lack of accountability in everybody who is involved with us. Even the older folks who are working on 91 square feet, they are also feeling, founders have multiple diverse interest, and this is a very, very early stage company. So why the heck we are so motivated, right? So it is a complete, you can say, a lack of accountability, lack of ownership. Nothing is moving, complete stalemate situation on all the fronts. So it was almost like a rotting thing. Everything is rotting around. That kind of a feeling you kind of end up with, right? So there we took a hard call. We said that okay, we had this $1 million taken for Yoda app.
you raised funds for Yoda.
Yes, $1 million
Okay. From?
from GSF and an angel group and a couple of other
Okay.
key angels, Kunal Shah, like
Hmm.
anybody who is spraying money or working on futuristic ideas, we were there,
Wow.
guys.
Okay. Wow. Amazing. Huh.
So, but there, I think one good thing, somebody gave us this GAN and it worked right. We decided that we'll return the whole 1 million back to investors. So
And
whatever.
you still had the money? Well, don't
So
you have
yeah,
spent
we
it in building the
yeah,
tech and all?
from the $1 million we have, so there were total 6.5, 7 crore we have raised, and out of that we have used up almost 1.5 to 1.75 crore we have used up, right? So remaining money went as it is, 1.75 crore that has been used up. We reached out to all the investors that we have this money that we have used up. Either we can give you stocks in our new venture, and stocks also 3x the value of whatever you have invested in the new venture. This is what we are doing. We can give you a proper pitch, and if you insist for money, we'll give you the money because we have some residual income from the exit of Quifer. So almost out of this 1.75 lakhs, we had to pay 75 lakhs from our pocket, which me and my co-founders contributed for one remaining 1 crore. Like kind founders like Kunal Shah and a couple of other folks, they said, guys, what I'll do with this money. So you can keep the money, just roll it on to the stocks in the next company. So that's how the affairs went by. And we got a very clean, happy, you can say, move exit from that venture, wherein without creating a lot of venom around us and the investor community.
Amazing.
So,
Amazing. Amazing.
so,
Oh,
so
So
that, yeah.
I want to ask a question here. At that point of time, you could have chosen either 91 square feet or Yoda, because there was an equal probability of success for either, right? Both are very early stage, but Yoda had the benefit of already having raised $1 million. Why did you give up Yoda?
I got blessed with a son on 21st May. Okay. I was there in that, in my hometown, my wife's hometown actually. So people were dying around. It was second wave of COVID, right? And I had this perception of life that life is very fickle. I have I have always been a very motivated about putting things at stake to aim very, very high. But I have never been on the driving seat. On the Yoda app, there was another CEO. One of our friend was co-founder. On the Quifer side, my co-founder who's still with us, Amit Mishra, he was the CEO. So I felt like I have never been on the driving seat. I don't want to go down like that, right? I want to try myself what kind of if I am taking shots, how will I will call shots. So the idea and the money did not matter to me in that moment. I just felt, this 91 square feet, I have been harboring this idea. I will carve it out and I will take the 100% risk. Even my proposal to my founders, rest of the co-founding team was like, whatever equity and the interest I have in other companies, you can take whole of it, right? Whatever you take out of me, I need that back in 91 square feet, right? The equal proportion back in 91 square feet. So it was a complete bet on myself. And I think in all those years, I have kind of grown that kind of, you can say, uh, confidence, or for the lack of better word, keep. I wanted to take that punt on myself.
Basically 91 square feet was your brainchild, your baby, so you
Yes.
had more conviction. Plus, essentially, you would lead that, and you wanted to do
Yes.
something which you would lead
Yes.
rather than following what someone else was doing. But your the CEO, co-founder of Yoda, he was also okay with winding it down.
So he was also running another company on the side, Trainman,
Okay.
which was facing a hard time in COVID, which he later sold to
Okay.
Adani at a really good
Okay.
exit. Now,
Okay. Okay. Amazing. Amazing. Okay.
so it was very, very complex. Uh,
Those were like crazy funding days, huh, where like despite so many red flags, you still managed to raise $1 billion. Is like that's amazing.
I think the first million is still not that tricky. I still think the market is still the same for first $1 million. Just, you
Okay.
just need to hit the right areas. That's all. If you are very, very,
Okay.
if you're dead serious about raising $1 million, I still believe you can raise $1 million on a plain deck. You don't need
Okay.
anything more than that.
We'll talk about this. Like your advice on raising the first million. That's an interesting topic.
So we started journey on 91 square feet. Focus was very clear. So after long 6 years, for the first time, we have been focused on doing just the one thing and doing that thing right, right. So it was a new energy, vibrant place. We were clear on what we wanted to build, right. So there's a different freshness and excitement in that whole thing, right, in that moment. So when we started on focusing on building 91 square feet, in the early days, first objective was to secure some capital to get going, because there was second wave of COVID. There was no money in our accounts. We were trying to do business, but we did not have any money to pay to our suppliers. So we need at least 50 lakhs, 1 crore, some amount to kind of keep surviving. So that was the first objective. So there I turned to my close friends, people who knew me from some time, and I knew about for some time. So to my pleasant surprise, almost everybody stood up for me in that moment. That was a very, you can say, emotional and proud moment for us. That I got the initial 60, 70 lakhs secured from my very close network, and that money came with a lot of responsibility as well. Right now, this is the money which is not coming from stranger. I cannot lose that money. So there was, extra motivation to dig harder. We started building on we started building 91 square feet with that initial 60, 70 lakhs we were able to secure from our initial bunch of friends and families. uh, so from that from from that area, initial time was there were people, I was majorly involved in setting up the macro structures and the things in place, because a very hardcore operations intensive business, right? And we wanted to build it very fast. So I was majorly I told myself that if I can bring in the right kind of capital and the right kind of team in place, that's the only way it will happen, right? So we hired some executive uh, from to run the operations. I was majorly focusing on getting the money, or raising the funds. My co-founders, Amit Mishra, was focusing majorly on making sure that the financial affairs are kind of held tight, because this is a very, you can say, financial operations are very very intensive in the business we are in. And another co-founder, Puneet Bansal, he was majorly taking looking at the setting up the technology and the product, right, so that we can scale this in the long term. So that's how we divided responsibility. I was majorly looking at sales and fundraise. We hired an external executive to run the operations, and two co-founders. One was running tech and product, and one was running finances. So
So your sales at that time would have been delivered manually, like someone on a spreadsheet would be managing things, and or a basic product kind of
yes, yes. The product was not in place. In fact, not at all in place. We just started building the software on which we will scale our operations. But to get through initial days, what we did is we took up some open source CRM. We kind of rejigged that CRM to suit to our operational processes, and we get the macro, stage movement of the projects, the financial cash flow control around those projects fixed on that contraption of the software that we have put together, and on that we were basically managing our operations in that time, right? Initial guys who gave us this 70 lakhs, these have been the most, by far the most helpful investor one could ever wish for. These guys helped me crack Y Combinator. So these guys helped me. Two of these folks who invested initial capital, they were ex YC founders, right? So they helped me put my application right. They helped me prepare for interview. They wrote recommendation for me to the YC partners. We were, I think, one of an outlier kind of a company which got interviewed and selected by YC, and it is only because I got so much of support around all my friends and colleagues who were also the initial investors in my company. So, and when I got into
what
YC,
was the pitch at YC?
the pitch at
What was the pitch?
pitch at YC is that India is going to build a lot of retail infrastructure. We are lagging behind, and when India is going to build that retail infrastructure, there's going to be somebody who will support a large portion of these new customers, right? All these D2C customers are also transitioning into building, setting up their retail shop. So there's a lot of new demand is also coming. So it's a right moment to build this kind of a company in this space. So that was majorly the pitch, and um, to our pleasant surprises, when Michael Sabel, who was also the CEO of IC at that time, he interviewed us. He also became our group partner later when we got selected. So he was able to see through what we have been doing. Uh, so he asked us this question: the kind of job that you're doing is almost like a shit job. Everybody kind of runs away from this kind of a shit, and you are telling me that you want this shit. Why you want this shit? And we told him that shit is where the
Wow.
opportunity is. So, uh,
Wow. Wow. Wow.
uh,
Amazing.
so
So, like, I know you don't like the X for Y comparison, but what you pitched at YC was like a live space for retail.
Uh, yes, we kind of tried to pitch that, but the YC partner corrected us. It seems more like a we work for retail. So we did not understand what
No, no,
he meant in that moment. I think we still hazily understand that, but it's majorly because we pivoted from that side. But yes, when we were evolving on that side, yes, it came to a point that the logical evolution for the business that we were building was to kind of take it to the WeWork sort of a model. Uh, so yeah, Uh,
We work.
yeah.
So, as in, you would have pre-built retail spaces, and then brands would just come and set up.
Yes. So basically, YC partners majorly have an experience of the US market, wherein the retail is very matured and the real estate, so there, I think the environment is probably set in such a manner that, you acquire a large space, you build specialty complexes, retail complexes, almost like a strip malls on the suburb of the city. And there you get into a very large real estate play, because you are owning the land and you are appreciating the value of the land by building a market around it, and that's where you make the large portion of the value that is eventually created in this business. Because uh, so that was the viewpoint, and it made a lot of
Like
sense. Yeah.
the food court in a mall. Typically, mall food court is like pre-built, and brands
Yeah.
come on a revenue share
Yes.
kind
Yes.
of an arrangement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In
Hmm.
fact,
Understood.
you'd be surprised to know that his prediction is actually right, because the way India retail is evolving in this moment is you would see a lot of highway side retail complexes coming up. There'll be one central food court sort of a thing, with some dhaba or this kind of thing, and then multiple other shops stacked around it. So this is becoming a prominent theme around most of the tier one, tier two cities around India. So that prediction was almost like spot on. So
But you are not the ones who would. I mean, eventually, if you raise enough capital, then you would be the ones who would actually operate that. But as of now, you are just building it.
yeah, so YC also does not give a lot of money. They only give $125,000, which they changed to $500,000 in our batch. Our batch was the first batch. So I almost recall that year
And this
2020.
was
Yeah.
like a remote thing where you would attend some lectures online and then
Yes. Yes. Yes.
get back to work, and then
Yes.
some mentor would keep asking you for progress or something like that,
Yes. Yes.
and you would learn from the other people in the cohort. Like that's the value add of YC.
Yes, that's the value add. I think the kind of advice they share, there's a real value in that advice. So one advice that we religiously follow is YC almost tells that do things in an unstructured and unscalable way. That's a very counterintuitive thought, compared to the traditional wisdom of running a company, right? So, but the YC mindset is when you are in the initial pre-PMF stage, you do not want to get stuck in processes and how the scale will happen. You should only be focusing on what your customer want, have a very sharp customer obsession, and do many unstructured, unscalable things around it. When something starts happening, something start gaining momentum, then you bring in processes and you can say scale into the equation, right? Don't start with the mindset
Yeah,
of
this is
scaling
the
processes.
Airbnb mantra is also this
Yes,
only.
yes. In
Like,
fact, Airbnb
do things
founder,
that don't
yeah,
scale until they
Airbnb
scale.
founders came, they gave a talk, Stripe founders, Brex. So a lot of big companies have a very open. So YC is almost like an environment wherein very scaled up company founders have a very candid chat, which they otherwise would not have in an open forum. And that's where the magic is, because that learning is unparalleled. And the support structure that YC provide, you can almost, they have a large directory that they give you an access to. You can reach out to anybody, and if you mention your batch and the partner name, most of the founders across the world are happy to give you time. So YC is almost like
Wow,
a big delta in our overall journey in changing our mindset around how we run business. And it was required for us. Like for the last 6 years, I have been chasing deals to make money, and this is for the first time. I'm thinking about how to make something which is absolutely required, have a very practical and unfiltered, unbiased way of looking at things, right? So uh, these guys have invested in 3000 plus companies, so I think they are able to see through any business, any founder mentality in the first 5 minutes of conversation. So they YC has almost created this magic somehow. It's hard to explain how they have done it, but they have done it. So
amazing, amazing.
so that was a very key, you can say, key addition to our overall exposure. Then around the demo day, we started raising a small round. We Fortunately for us, the round kind of swelled. There was a lot of investor you can say, interest in the business that we have been building. We got subscribed. We were raising $3 million. Then it got quickly filled up. Then we increased the valuation. We asked for slightly higher money, and it went on for 2 or 3 or 5 iterations, and then eventually we had an overall subscription or offers worth 23 million, out of which we picked up almost $10 million. So, and we started calling it a Series A round, because there's no
Wow,
point.
amazing.
Yes. So those were the days. That was the market. I think that was the peak of madness, and after that, the sanity started prevailing.
Okay, okay, good timing then.
Yes. So post YC, post raising this round, we started scaling this business. We There was money, so there was pressure that now we want to grow 3x, 5x in 1 year. We were doing hardcore service operations, and after a point, we again started realizing that when we are building retail shops, it is not making a unit economic sense, right? If I'm building a 20 lakh retail shops, 20 lakh rupees worth of retail shop, I'm making, let's say, 20% margins, right? Net I'm making 4 lakh rupees on a retail shop. My project manager has to spend a significant bandwidth of his time. Then there are other teams, sales, procurement, operations, right? Other cross function design, other cross functional teams are involved. My overall cost of delivering a particular project was almost equivalent or a little higher compared to the net revenue or gross margins I'm getting out of a single project, right? That's where we started questioning, are we on a right track, right? So after raising 10 millions, initial days we thought, this is not happening because our operations and the delivery quality is not right. We put a very dead sharp focus on fixing those things on ground, did a lot of changes in organization structure, right? And in fact, the whole journey was immediately after raising the round, I was telling everybody that I will be able to make a marketplace out of it. I will build the technology so clean that I will take up a retail build out assignment. I'll break it into into smaller orders. Everybody, every supplier will operate or execute their job like a clockwork, and everything will be managed centrally. All the decisions will be taken centrally by this technology uh, think tank that we are creating, right? So that was the dream I was selling to investors, and that was the dream I believed in. And immediately after raising the capital, I I kind of pursued it heavily within the company that we need to build a marketplace out of it. If we want to scale in the long run, we need to make our engagement light touch. So that's basically, Akshay, that's the wishful thinking, right? That's one of the very big and core mistake we made, because our business was hardcore service operations, and we wanted, because investor wanted and we wanted to scale, and we wanted to make it light touch. So we tried to enforce on our customer what we want rather than addressing what they wanted. So even after 4 6 months of YC hard training, we still made that mistake. So some learnings, they take time to kind of seep in and totally descend on you. So we made that mistake. Our NPS was at almost took a nosedive. Uh, there was escalation all around. We believe that things are not happening. We are not scaling because our delivery operations are not right. So we turned the entire org model around creating a hardcore service delivery operations, wherein we decentralize the P&L to the local regional heads and gave them a lot of autonomy to act and cater to the customer with flexibility. And our NPS improved drastically, and we started building technology around enabling that in a better manner. And from the initial thesis of, we will remove the project manager out of the site, and the technology will take over, we came to the theory that we are in a business of super powering the project manager, wherein we will make him 10x more productive, because he will have a 360-degree control and visibility on what all that is happening around, and he will be able to take decisions faster, and he can run multiple projects in parallel, right? So the technology, the product mindset shifted. We in fact made a massive detour on our product, scrapped a lot of modules, and started redoing all these things on the product and the software that we're building, made a massive changes in our structure, and we were able to fix our delivery experience. But even after fixing the delivery experience, we realized that the unit economics is not going right. the amount of money we are making on a small, let's say, typical retail shop, which is 800 square feet, is 20 lakhs, and the net 20% margins we'll make, which is 4 lakh. We are spending almost equal amount of money in terms of the human capital, which is being deployed and get into that. So, and that,
But
yeah.
wouldn't a counter view be like this, that uh, you are making your project manager superhuman, like you're making him a 5 times more productive, so eventually the cost will work out? आज के दिन क्योंकि economies of scale नहीं है, so that is the problem. But eventually one project manager will manage 5 such projects that today he's managing one project.
So definitely that was the theory, Akshay. Ki eventually these guys will be more productive and will be managing multiple sites. But for that to happen, you need to have a density in a particular location, like this, because this project manager need to have multiple projects running in a small territory, and this makes sense only at a certain scale. To get to that scale, again you need to put in a lot of capital. And the way business turned around from May 2021 till now, you see that all this business who were catering, who were delivering services to enterprises like Fasinja, or multiple other operating in similar fashion, all this business took a massive hit and backlash because they were burning money on an individual transaction order, and the market view has become that investor has stopped taking interest in models which will make money in the longer run. They want a fundamentally sound business, the way it is in the current moment, right? So then when the external factors change, you have to react to it. So we if you want to live in that zone wherein things will make sense at scale, but what will come out of it if you are never able to see that scale, right? So that's where the thing started, the road started diverging apart, and we had to take a call, right? And there's another thing, in our business, the way our business is stacked, there's another way to make this retail fit out business unit positive, that you have a pre-fitted modularized component that you are almost assembling at a particular shop, right? That means your touch is very light and you have things figured out in the back end and the customer is taking choices, right? So around that as well, we thought, and traditionally, because we come from civil engineering and this kind of background, we were almost doing a hardcore, very detailed project management operation on a small scale project size. So that's how our business and DNA was stacked. So we also thought about, should we pivot our operation to modularize the store? But then, even to modularize, what we realized, that retail is almost like delivering the exotic experience, right? Every brand wants their store to be looking very unique. That's the main deliverable of building a brand through the offline touch. So majority of large established brand won't buy into this, right? They would want to do things their own way. Commodity, maybe these kirana and general stores and maybe the new age companies would probably buy into this hypothesis. But then what we realize is that even the D2C brands do not have money. So that was another reality
Yeah,
check we
yeah, yeah.
got. We thought that these
No,
D2C
but
brands,
D2C brands would definitely want quirky stores. I mean, that's part
yeah,
of their
you
DNA,
can
not
you
to
can
be
still make
quirky.
it
And
quirky actually. See, making things quirky is not a problem. You can have a assortment of furniture, you can do signage in different ways. So small things, colors can be played around and you can make things quirky. But the big brand, it's very difficult to convince them to take this kind of bet, and at a massive scale. You can still convince a D2C brand to take this kind of bets, given these companies have that kind of deep pockets, that you would see none of the D2C brand open more than 100 stores, right? The last, which was the projection wherein,
100 is a
yeah,
100 is a big number.
everybody targeted.
Other than maybe a Nika
Yeah,
or those kind might have, but
yeah,
nobody.
yes,
I
yes.
don't think any of the pure D2C brands
Yeah.
have done.
Nobody even touched, like most of the 90-95 percentile did not even touch 10 stores. Like, and all of them had a target,
Yeah.
they had the projection of opening 100 stores in the next 6 months when we talked to them initially. Almost every single guy would tell,
Okay.
"Okay, I would want to open 100 stores, so you give me good pricing on the first." So, and it
Oh, wow.
become
Wow.
it become a, you can say, almost like a joke in the company that, we would ask a sales guy how many stores you would want to open. He would say, yeah, 100. Everybody wants to do 100 stores.
Okay.
So with these two realization, we were very clear in our head that, okay, With large formats, large established brands, difficult to make money. Small brands wherein you can make money and do things your own way, they don't have money themselves. How do we make money? And then we looked at many things. We looked at the original idea which Michael has uh, uh, pitched to us, that you can create strip malls, you can acquire pieces of land, you can develop them, and the whole, basically the land parcel and the whole market will become a product asset, and this product asset will churn long term revenues, and you can build hundreds and thousands around India, and India has the appetite of doing that. So that was one viable idea. We thought about it, but that's a massive pivot, right? Almost, and requires a lot of capital. Can be pursued. I think it's still a viable idea. Should be pursued. Somebody should be doing it. But for us, when we looked at things, we looked at what all capabilities we have. We have very fine grained project management capabilities wherein we don't drop the ball on execution. What if we just increase the ticket size of the project? It will start making money in the short run, and with this money and the better numbers, we can get to the maybe a couple of more rounds, and we can take bigger and deeper bets in the sector. So the natural direction for us was to pivot into becoming a hardcore construction company, which will manage large, complex, high precision assignments, and will take a massive you can will and will create a brand around it. And it makes a lot of macro sense as well. You see, there's L&T is majorly interested in doing projects which are more than $100 million in value, right? Because they are heavy-handed, their overheads and the structures are built such a way that they can't operate on many multiple of small small ticket size. So practically, there's no brand which kind of operates, which is a go-to brand in building smaller assets, maybe retail shops, warehouses, offices, hospitals, schools, data centers, university, these kind of things, which are slightly smaller in ticket size, right? uh, because that requires a lot of agility, that requires a lot of the complexity and the you can say the client management, and a lot of project management fundamentals are almost the same which are there in 1,000 crore projects, right? But you need to kind of figure out a way to do it with agility at a large volume. And that's where we felt, we have the on ground teams, we have the technology wherein we are able to manage things with the agility, with a very 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 light touch. So let's just focus on increasing the ticket size and becoming profitable. From that moment on, we'll see what is the next place to go, right? Almost like from not,
One,
yeah.
one
Yeah.
question. Retail store is small ticket size. Give me an example of large ticket size.
Office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a corporate
Yeah.
office. Okay.
So
Understood.
a
Okay.
typical corporate office, retail store is typically 300 square feet to 2,000 square feet. A corporate office is 2,000 square feet to 1 lakh square feet. So definitely bigger. Smallest of the office would be more than 50 lakh in value, right? And we draw a line that if the project value is more than 50 lakhs, we become unit economics profitable. So these are the kind of projects we'll focus on. And we decided it somewhere around I think October 2023, after giving almost good 1.5 year to retail and retail operations. So in all this time, we matured our technology, we matured our ground operation, the project team, we acquired some you can technical depth in around procurement and fine aspects of managing the fit outs of a particular space. So with all these capabilities, it was a very natural extension. We looked at all the peers and the competition. So a typical contractor or traditional contractor who we compete with is generally operating across all these categories. He is not segregating between these things. So basically, the bottom line capability set is almost 90-95% similar, right? So it was a very very natural extension. So we did not have to make a lot of changes. We just need to make a changes in our outward positioning, the website, and the customers that we'll talk to, right? And in October 2023, we decided to make this pivot. From this that moment till now, in the last 6 months, we have grown our business almost threefold, 2.5 to
Wow.
3x. We became EBITDA
What's
profitable.
your ARR?
Currently, we are doing close to 120, 130 crores.
ARR.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
And we became EBITDA profitable on the service side of things, right? So lots and lots of you can say confidence we have gotten. And now We believe that we have latched onto a category wherein it's just about building a brand in the long run so that the repeat business and the customers keep on coming back to us, and we will build a cash cow out of this category of office fit out, right? And
Amazing, amazing.
uh,
That 10 million you raised, that how much of that is left? I'm assuming since you're a bit positive, you would still have enough money in the
so
bank.
precisely we raised almost near to 9 million. Out of 9 million, we have used up almost, I think, 4.5 million. So remaining 4.5 million is left with us.
Amazing, amazing. You're in an amazing position right now to like really go for hyper growth.
Yeah, so actually the I'll tell you the real position I am right now, Akshay. Uh, when we decided, so we started getting a sense in the early 2020, uh, early 2023, somewhere around April, May 2023, that we are doing a lot of things right on the retail deliveries, but we are not making money. And we need to make a pivot, right? When we decided that we need to make a pivot, we we did we just did not do one thing. One thing was, we decided, we were thinking around that we should be doing offices. We haggled on this for a couple of months, but eventually around October we started. But in April the same year, we also started one more thing. What we did is, we thought, what if we package our software, right, the technology we have built, right, and give it to other construction company and design build companies like us, right, and even the end customer, because they also need some experience and reporting on their project, right, to manage their operations, right. We can have a much wider view on who is building what, right. Plus we will be able to train a set of suppliers who almost operate on a congruent process, and we will be able to consume their services when we want to scale, when we want to get a hyperscale, right. So typically company will have this spend, if you look in their company's panel, they will have this spend wherein they would say supply development, training, this and that, right. This is a typical cost head for companies which are deep in operations, right. So instead of setting up a team which will do all these things, we set up a revenue team. We said that, okay, if you are able to sell this software to a contractor at a high price, the contractor himself will work his ass off to get this system adopted deep into his day-to-day process. And if he gets this done, then he is very very consumable to us, right. And along the way, so we started with this theory. We gave this show this product to a couple of contractors. They immediately liked the software. They started buying it. Then we took it to some of the end customer as well, because they also need things to manage. So we started getting a lot of end customer as well as contractor on our software platform, and they are paying for it as well, right. So while we have
Amazing.
a 130 crore annualized business, EBITDA positive business on service operations, we also have a pool of 200 enterprises who are using our platform on a day-to-day basis. Out of these 200 enterprises, 100 enterprises are almost paying for it, right. So
What's the difference between those who pay and those who don't?
so
Like you have
basically
a freemium,
so
like a free
basically
version and a
let's say, some of the key customers who are using our software is ICICI Bank, AU Bank, SimplyWorks, SmartWorks, a lot of managed office companies, a lot of design architects, and these kind of people. So when ICICI Bank bought the software, he would have his supplier report progress on the software as well. So a customer will bring couple of more people around, right? And with and to these guys will go, and then we'll sell upsell ki you should also take premium so that you can build your own project. So if you are tagged to a premium license, then you can only report on progress, but if you have your own premium license, you can build your own project as well. So basically it is almost like spreading from, you can say, from one point to multiple direction. Then we are kind of going after those guys. And
amazing.
so
Then how much revenue does that give you?
uh,
The annualized revenue for SaaS?
so in terms of invoicing, we are selling almost 30-40 lakhs worth of software every month now. In terms of ARR,
Wow.
ARR is somewhere around 15-16 lakhs. So on one hand, we have a deeply integrated supply chain operations on office fit out category. Then we have a software which is becoming the necessity for anybody to, anybody who is concerned with fit out business to kind of manage their operations. So almost becoming a necessity for people to manage their operations, right, for people who are engaged in fit out business. So now I am almost poised for hyperscale. So hyperscale, how the hyperscale will come, right? So we started calling this business in such a way that 91 square feet. We Our first mandate is to go deeper into office fit out and build a deeper brand, right? Then expand to some categories which are even higher tickets, and the new age category there's not of a lot of competition, like category like data centers. As new age category starts from hundreds of crores, right? Nobody has an expertise. If you can build deep mep expertise, you can build data centers as well, right? So category expansion and the nuances of building that categories are built into the software and then distributed to the wider market, wherein you are training a supplier base around it, right? And you kind of consume that supplier base to kind of stabilize and deeply stabilize that category, and then you move on to the next category, right? So it is becoming almost like a, it is in early shapes, right? It is almost like a mechanism wherein you you get your door in into a category, then you start building your supply, and you can build your supply faster because you already have inroads into a very deep supply network, and then you can scale in that category. And that's basically the plan for the next couple of years. We'll go category by category, and we'll go deeply penetrate. We'll start going deeply penetrating these categories. Categories will have a category head who will look after, you can say, the positioning, the branding, the finer refinements which are required to be done on those categories. And the idea is to build a new age construction company, which is faster, cheaper, more efficient in delivering projects, right? And
Amazing, amazing.
yeah, and in the long run, Akshay, we can add a lot of value for these guys as well. Now, because see, as a contractor, very difficult guy to give money to, right? You will not lend your money to a contractor because you don't know his affairs. With our technology, we know his affairs precisely. We know that this guy is doing a 1 crore project. If he does it 50%, he'll get money from the customer. He has already done it 30%. So I can give him 20 lakhs. So there's a lot of scope to push value added services like financing, the procurement to these guys, be a part of their growth trajectory, and then from the other side you are giving them demand, right? So the whole ecosystem will come together. There are almost like pieces in place. We have like fingers in multiple places. Now it's moment that we need to consolidate everything as a one unified force and punch hardest.
Amazing. Essentially, you're on your way to become a unicorn, like in terms of the multiple markets that you are building in, and that software play, which is pure gross margin, because you're anyway building software for your internal use case. So whatever revenue you get from SaaS is like pure gross margin for you.
Yeah, we don't we are not at all looking at the source. See, we are pricing the software almost equivalent to the other software which solves almost maybe 30% of the use case. There are software which will only do project management. There are software which will do procurement. There are software which will make sure your internal cost centers and the approvals are set up. This is all in one, right? We are still pricing it at that level. We are not caring too much about the revenues. We are only caring about the adoption rate. We care the kind of metric we measure around the software penetration is the values of BOQs, the total scope that is being managed on R dash in a month. Now this is touching in some
What is BOQ?
bill of quantity, like the
Bill of
total value of project,
quantity.
right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
in certain months it is touching like 40-45 crores now on our desk, the amount of
Wow.
scope that is being managed by all the ecosystem player company, and this is growing exponentially. So if you are managing a huge scope on our desk, that means you can do a lot of value added services around that. So the transaction volume, the number of orders which are released through our dash to other suppliers, right? So these are basically the North Star metric on the software front. Is almost like investment into the future, which will, in our theory, will breed long-term success for the company.
Amazing, amazing. So I want to kind of go a little deeper into some questions I had while you were narrating your journey. Um, let's start with this. You mentioned very good brands that you've worked with throughout your journey. I want to understand a bit in terms of how you do your client acquisition. Like you must have gone through your own learning of how to acquire clients. Like be it the ad business where you had McDonald's as your first client, or like for every business you did, you had good quality businesses as your customers. So how do you do B2B marketing or B2B sales?
So Akshay, I believe that I'm a salesman by nature. So that's my core skill. And uh, more to say, like the initial stint at that MLM company, I think that's where I acquired majority of my learning. Like that's the those 2 months, right? Those 2 months of absolute misery has been the most helpful and rewarding experience in my life, and has been the biggest contributor in whatever we have been doing so far, because the majority of business in the beginning is almost like a sales fist fight, right? You don't have a lot of differentiation to show, but you are still getting the deal because you are good at sales, right? That's how it looks like in the beginning, until you start making a brand and get starting repeat. So a lot of you can small hacks and tactics that we have learned from that. Like uh, I can go on, keep on sharing what we do, but just to name a few, we believe that sales is a process wherein you are enterprise sales is a process wherein you are selling to a group, right? So when you are selling to a group, you give a demo, somebody is excited, that doesn't mean that your sales has landed, right? You know that you need to understand that this person need to take approval from multiple places. You need to understand how this guy is placed in terms of decision making hierarchy, and how you need to influence multiple people. And when there are multiple people from the other side, you also need to involve multiple people from your side, because one guy will not be able to sell, convince everybody. So we basically try to gamify it, like the scene in the same account. If an executive has made an inroad with a procurement guy, and their chief operating officer is involved, so somebody senior from our sales will kind of tackle that person. So it's like a man-to-man marking, understand who is thinking what, right?
Wow.
And we do a lot of edification, like even if I'm going in a sales meeting and I'm introducing my colleague, I'll introduce my colleague in such a manner like he's some god or angel on some kind, like he's come from a different planet. So that kind of, it's almost like giving the positioning, right position to speak to the person that you are introducing, and these small things matter a lot, right? It's because the and then it's almost like the basic fundamentals. Whenever the person you are selling to, you cannot be selling features and all this kind of things. You need to be selling uh, things like, what difference your product or service will make in his personal life. Like we would, before started selling the product or service, we would generally would want to talk about who all in your family, what are typically the work hours, right? We would sensitize the person, like, his life is very hard, we'll nudge him in that direction. And when he is in that direction, when he believes that his life is becoming difficult and he need to change something, that's when we kind of reveal, what product is and how it will make difference in his life. And so the it makes it registers more deeply, right? Even if people still say I don't need that product, at least that guy need that product, because now it is affecting him personally as well, beyond the work life. So there are a lot of things that we learned, like on those 2 months on those tables, looking at those guys talking absolute with absolute cruelty how the sales will be done. Like this environment is not an environment you'll get in a professional world. These guys are talking about cheating and frauding their friends, right? So these guys have, the kind of brutality they have around closing a deal. This is unparalleled. So you can say that I have lived amongst that tribe for some time, picked up some hacks and kind of applied those hacks and learned some of our hacks along the way. These things kind of contributed.
Amazing, amazing. I think probably everyone should go through a stint of multi-level marketing just to get sales
No,
trained.
that's absolute misery. I would say that's absolute misery. It's not a happy place to be in.
Um,
Can
right, 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 right. Okay. The other thing which we briefly discussed, you said that raising your first million is not hard. I want to zoom in on that. Like, what's your advice on how to raise your first million?
So what I believe, Akshay. So in the beginning, typically what happens with founders is that they are wearing founders are always wearing multiple hats. But in the beginning, there are not many people around to delegate their operation day-to-day tasking. So they would be doing very, very small things which are critical for business, right? They are doing it themselves in the beginning because they wanted to learn, and then later because they do not have money to hire enough people around it, and then later because they are unmindful around doing those things, right? They are just doing those things for the heck of doing it, while there are people around who these things can be delegated to, right? So I think the key fundamental of whenever, if you are trying to raise fund, you need to detach yourself out of the business and get into the story zone. If you don't get, if you are getting 10 escalations since morning, you are being worried by your team around salaries, and there are a lot of you can say a lot of hardship that goes around in the beginning. You are dealing with all these hardships, and then you are sitting with in front of investors, and you want to show him a dream world, right? This doesn't happen. So what so my thing would be, if you are raising funds, be absolutely clear amongst your co-founders and amongst your key team that I'm going to be largely unavailable for these 15, 20, 30 days, right? So business, this is where the business is, you are on your own. And uh, and when you are taking that time out, you are also understanding that within yourself your business is going to take a hit. Your numbers will not grow the way it should grow, because you want to show that to investors as well. So you would want to start with a slightly lower trajectory of numbers, like, because you understand that, okay, so that overall, because typically founders, what they will say, that what the current numbers are, they would say 30% higher or 20% higher, right? I would say, if you're raising funds, just start with the absolute numbers, right? One, it gives you absolute authenticity, right? Even if it doesn't grow too much, you're still on a solid spot. You are not scared about failing in due diligence, right? You are mentally in a happy place. And that allows you a lot of time to cramp all your meetings, everybody in the under the sun that you can speak with, right? Speak with everybody in a very short 10, 15, 20 days of time, right? Joby, whosoever is giving you small checks, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, just keep on reeling those checks in. Start, build initial momentum. Keep on updating the rest of the guys how your round is moving. Create, and capitalize on that momentum. If you go slow there, it will drag on for forever. Like that has been my learning for the last the two fundraise that three fundraise in fact that I did in the early sizes.
What is the kind of investors to reach out for raising your first million? Should you go to angels? Should you go to micro VCs, early stage VCs?
See, early stage VCs, I think VCs take a lot of time, and they largely move with thesis, and they largely come on board, and they need to have they need certain amount of time or some excessive amount of FOMO, right? So if you are raising a first million, I would say that you cramp a lot of angel sort of discussion the first 3 or 5 days, because your pitch will get refined. You will get iterate on your pitch and keep on iterating your pitch with every single discussion that you have, right? It will sharpen you around the edges. With that, you go to micro vcs and big vcs all at once, because if you are able to get some momentum with angels, you can use that momentum to kind of generate interest with micro vcs and the large vcs. And if some micro vc is interested and a large vc is also interested at the same time, you can use micro vc's interest to get the money from the large vc, right? So that's
Basically, you have to create FOMO, like
yeah,
fear of missing
yes,
out.
you have to do it full time. Like, if typically I
Yeah.
see the mistake that people do is they try to do it in chunks. Like, I spoke with somebody, then I spoke with somebody else, then I spoke with somebody else. It doesn't work like that.
Okay, that's good insight. Very good insight. Okay, yeah, I want to ask you about best practices around building a product, because you have built multiple products. So what advice do you want to give around building a product?
I think my co-founder has done majority of heavy lifting around building a product, and I believe that he has absolutely magical skills when it comes to thinking through the nuances. So, but my sense, Akshay, is in the very early stages, right? When you want to raise funds, right, and you want to show investors that this is what I'm building, this is looking exciting, you can cut a lot of corners. You want a functional product on which you can give demo. Basically, it's just to illustrate your vision and the story. But when you are actually on the job, when you are building a product for your business, you can't take these hackish approaches. You can take hackish approaches around operations, around sales processes and these kind of things, the the growth hacks and all this kind of thing. But when you are building a product, I think you need to be very, very cautious on what you're building, and it's absolutely important to build it right in the first go. Because if you don't build it right in the first go, what happens is you are thinking that you are shipping out an MVP, right? You ship out an MVP, right? Then because this, if fortunately that MVP starts working, the customer comes or your requirement evolves into more feature set, then you start building more feature set around it. Now some core experience that you initially built is already sucking, right? The whole consumer experience is already sucking. Then you are iterating between, you are upgrading the first version, and then you are working on certain features, the whole focus diverges. So my sense would be, when you are building product which is catering to a core business need, you need to be absolutely clear what you want to do. It's better to have multiple iterations on the story, along with the tech team, to refine it around the edges, to refine the workflow, refine the every pixel, the UI and the UX of the whole product, and then you give it to the tech team that this is what we want, and you build it, right? But that advice also kind of applies to companies which already have a kind of a stable tech team. For absolutely early stage founders, my simple advice would be, you need to be very serious about what you want to ship out next. You just can't be shipping out substandard things in whims and fancies. Like, you need to take less number of bets on product, but take those bets deeply. Don't stay in that MVP zone. I think MVP zone is counterproductive most of the times.
Okay, interesting. How do you decide between conflicting priorities? Because when you're building a product, you might say, "Acha, UI UX बाद में देखेंगे. Let's first have a good basic structure in place or whatever." I mean, So how do you prioritize?
So for us, so I know about our business. So our business is the anything that has to do with cash flow control and leakages, right? Is an absolute priority, because that it has a direct business impact, right? And if it is affecting our business, definitely all the other customers who are buying this product, they also kind of will be seriously interested in it. So absolute priority is fixing the performance of the core. So what we do typically in the product is, we have devised something called as the core experience, the core journey, the core feature set. So you don't want to go wrong in this direction, right? And then there's something called as growth, and the growth feature set, right? Something that will allow you to take this product to the larger market. So for us, the priority is always fixing the core experience, because core experience results into NPS, and NPS results into more positive word of mouth and good customer, right? So it's almost like you can say a growth lever in itself. It just acts a little slow, right? But if you do the other way around, if you focus a lot on growth features and the whole experience is not, you are always running a risk that somebody can screw you from behind. Like, some competition will come in, he will see that this product has value, this use case has value, but this company has not done it right, so let me do only this subset of this whole problem right, and they will take out a lot of your market share. So I think it's important to stick to the fundamental. What is your core experience? Deliver it with absolute perfection, and then you kind of get to the growth features.
Interesting. How frequently do you measure NPS? Do you have a formal way of measuring NPS? NPS stands for Net Promoter Score.
Yes.
So
So we
tell me a bit about
so
that.
at this moment, we because our construction business is basically stacked around, always running 30-40 projects, and we almost deeply understand and know these customers. So for me, measuring NPS is going to the site. Go to the site, understand what's going on there, talk to the customer, and the pseudo indicators is how much of repeat business you are getting from that account. If you're saying the NPS is right, but you don't, we tried other methods of measuring NPS, but these were all hacked by the team which was working with the customer, right? So as of this moment, we don't have a very formal way of measuring NPS, but now because now the scale is amassing, so what we have devised is that we would want to start rating the quality score on our work. Like, we'll go the side with the initial quality briefing meeting, and towards the closer we'll give a quality score. That quality score, so basically there's an unbiased party within the company, and whatever he is scoring you is the NPS on the delivery side. Then another component of the customer is that how you have managed that relationship, which is anyway be tracked through the repeat business. So these two things in combination are the indicators for us of NPS as of this moment. Um, but yeah, I think the formal exercises which are being preached around measuring NPS, these come into play when you have almost, I think, a minimum 1,000 customers that you are dealing with. Otherwise, there's no point of running a
Okay.
survey, right? If you have 30 people to talk
Mm.
to, you better talk to 5 or 10 of them. You will get a good sense.
Right, right. Okay, interesting. That I found that interesting in terms of having an unbiased party within the organization to do quality control, like an auditor within the organization who's not motivated to tweak the score. That is important to do.
Yes.
That's quite an interesting insight. Okay. Uh, how do you've had like CEO role and then also not a CEO role. How do these things get decided? Like two friends starting a business together, how do you decide who will be the CEO?
Um, I think there's no formal way. I think I've seen a lot of teams struggling around. I think there was a data Y Combinator showed. They shared almost like typically startup feels that they are going out of business because they ran out of money, but really running out of money is less than 5 or 10% of the cases when the business went bust. Almost 35-40% of the time when the team was not aligned, founders were not aligned. That was the highest cause of startup death. So that's a big problem. I think um for us it was almost like patience. We have given each other good time and space, carved out responsibilities, been very open and candid with each other in sharing feedback. So this is how we decided. But I think the key skill a CEO should have, because the CEO job, apart from raising money and the growth and the other things, it would be to drive a sense of culture and coherence within the team, to drive a sense of ownership within the team, right? And the sense of ownership comes when you give people their autonomy and due credit, right? When you give them recognition, not just within the organization, but the outward recognition, right? So you need to let loose of certain things, right? If you can't let loose of things like the external PR, the credibility, and you are always seeking credit, then definitely the person is not fit to be being the CEO. Uh, I think it's more towards giving your people adequate space and adequate recognition, and because these things are can be sensed in the early. If two friends are starting up, uh, any unbiased third person can recognize very easily out of these two who should be the CEO. But end up, you will often find that within these two people, they are taking a wrong choice. The typical thing that investor notice whenever they meet an early stage team, right? So, but you can't do anything about it.
How do you build a great team? How do you hire the right people?
So, in fact, I have a video. We had a session in the internal team on hiring. I have built a very strong view that you need to index way more on personality than you index on the experience. Typically in the startup, because if in the startup you are looking at value creators, people who will venture into new horizons and will create value, right? Right, you are not looking at value protector kind of people who has already been there, done that, and you are asking him to do the similar kind of thing at your place. Why would he descend down to your place if he just had to do the same thing, right? And even if he does that, it will not be it will not make an ROI sense of the investment you are making on that person. So majority of the times startups are hiring value creator, right? You need to spot a value creator. It's almost like taking a bet on the person, right? Almost every time, right? And to do that efficiently, a person, a recruiter, or somebody who's driving the interview need to be far more interested in seeing the life of the person from his own lens. So our typical question when we are conducting an interview, we typically ask the person how has been his early childhood, family में कोई problem that has shaped his personality, right? What has been highs and lows of graduation, right? uh, how your experience with your managers, where would your managers will rate you on a scale of 1 to 10, what strength he will tell about you, right? What strength do you believe you have, right? So it's a more like a 70, like 70-80% of the discussion is majorly towards understanding the person, who he is, what are his struggles, what are his motivations, what drives him, what sets him off, right? So if you can understand these things about a person, and you do ask these same set of assessment with a repeatedly with multiple set of people, then you start getting a sense on, what kind of people you will vibe good with, uh, and will be able to work long term with.
What signals are you looking for when you're asking about personal life?
So in personal life, first of all, need is very clear. Like if you when you ask about early childhood, it's generally the time when your kind of perception shapes up, right? How the world is and what's your place in the world. So from early signs, from early childhood, typically candidate will give you insight on what drives them, what motivates them, right? So you get to know about their drive. Then in these kind of questions you also get to know about uh, people typically have some unique strengths which they which they are continuously good at, but they are not able to articulate it well. When you start looking at their life from their lens, you get a very good sense on, okay, this is the pattern wherein the person is naturally being drawn to these kind of things because he's naturally being good at it, and these are the kind of things that which is he's letting unaddressed, right? Because it's very easy to see that through from the external lens when somebody else is talking. So so you will get a sense of his drive. We also look at the resourcefulness in people, like people who can make you can say sense out of the environment, things around them, and get through with it. It's like there are people who would spend a lot of time in setting up the geometry box, and the people who will just grab a pen from the side and will write the examination. We are looking definitely looking for the second kind, right? uh, Resourcefulness, the drive, right? And then basically teamwork is what we deeply assess. Our and business is very collaborative. We have a deep sense that teamwork is not about collaborating and delegating the job between multiple people. Teamwork is always about sacrificing for the other guy, right? The When we ask about teamwork, we are always looking for signal. There are people who would come, especially in the first fresher round, who will talk about ki I've led this initiative when I calm delegate kiya, and that's teamwork. We tell them that tell us more. We'll ask for three, four, five examples on the same instance. If the person is not even able to share a single instance wherein he has done, some sacrifice for the other guys, slowed himself down to kind of bring the other guy up to speed, and that other guy then did wonders for the overall job. So if you can spot that kind of signal, then you know that you are absolutely speaking with a groomable leader, right? You can lift, and then you can work on for developing some core skills.